You searched for what February holds, and out of everything that came up, you landed here. This is your reading for February 2026. And I need you to hear me when I say this is not a normal month. But before I get into what's happening in the sky, I want to talk about what's already happening in you, because I think you've been feeling it. This restlessness that doesn't match your life. This sense that everything around you is fine, maybe even good, but something underneath it all is shifting, and you can't quite name it yet. You've been waking up at odd hours. Your mind won't settle the way it used to. You keep thinking about a version of your life that doesn't exist yet, and you don't know if that makes you visionary or delusional. You've been carrying a dream you stopped talking about, and lately, it's been getting louder. That feeling is not random. And the fact that you're here right now, watching this, at this exact moment in time, that's not random either. Because what's happening in the sky this month hasn't happened in over 300 years. And I believe, with everything in me, that you were meant to be alive for it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk you through every major transit February 2026 holds, and there are many. I'm going to explain what each one means. And more importantly, I'm going to explain what it means for you, for the restlessness, for the dream, for this strange and beautiful in-between place you've been living in. By the end of this reading, you're going to understand why you've been feeling this way, and you're going to know exactly what to do about it. Let's begin. I want to stay with you for a moment before we look at the sky, because I think the hardest part of the last few weeks, maybe the last few months, hasn't been any one thing. It's been the accumulation. This quiet, relentless piling up of feelings that don't have a name. I know you've been waking up at 3 in the morning. Not from a nightmare, not from anxiety, exactly. Just awake, alert, like your body knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You lie there in the dark, and instead of going back to sleep, your brain starts running, not worrying, something different, almost like rehearsing. Playing a version of your life that doesn't exist yet. A different morning routine, a different city, a different feeling when you open your eyes. And then the alarm goes off and you put that version of yourself away. You get up, you go through the day, you do what you do. And from the outside, nothing looks different. But you know it's different. You know something is different. There's this feeling, and I think you know exactly what I'm talking about, where you can be at a dinner with people you love, laughing, present, having a good time. And then you get in the car afterward, and this hollow ache rises up from somewhere deep. It's not sadness. It's not loneliness. It's more like homesickness. Homesickness for a place you haven't been yet, for a life you can feel but can't touch. And I think the hardest part of it, the part you don't say out loud, is that you feel guilty for feeling this way. Because your life isn't bad. You built this life. You chose it. And being ungrateful for something you chose feels like a character flaw, not a signal. So you push it down. You tell yourself it's just a phase. You scroll at midnight looking for someone to say the thing you need to hear. You save posts you'd never share. You Google questions at 1 in the morning that you'd never ask out loud. And you carry this weight alone. Because how do you explain to someone that your life is good, but your soul is restless without sounding dramatic? You don't sound dramatic. You sound ready. And I think the hardest part of all, the part that makes my heart ache for you, is that you've been doing the most important work of your life in complete silence. The growth you've done in the last few years, the patterns you broke, the boundaries you set, the version of yourself you outgrew and quietly laid to rest, none of it came with a ceremony. No one threw you a parade. No one said, "I see how much you've changed." You just kept going, kept building, kept becoming. It's like you've been building a house in the dark, carrying stones you can barely see, laying a foundation you have to feel for with your hands. Some nights you wondered if you were building anything at all or just moving rocks in circles. No blueprint, no guarantee. Just this stubborn, quiet faith that if you kept going, it would eventually become something. February is the month the lights come on, and I mean that with everything in me. So let me show you what's happening in the sky, because when you see it, everything I just described is going to make perfect sense. The month begins with a full moon in Leo on February 1st. And full moons are not subtle. A full moon is a spotlight. It illuminates what's been hidden. It brings things to a peak. It says, this can't stay in the shadows anymore. In Leo, that spotlight swings directly onto you. Not your career, not your relationship. You, your authenticity, your creative fire. The parts of you that are real versus the parts that are performance. And here's what I need you to notice about this full moon. It sits across from the sun in Aquarius, the sign of the collective, the group, the community. So this tension that rises at the start of February is between who you truly are and who you've been presenting yourself as to keep the peace, to fit in, to belong. Leo asks, when did you stop being yourself? And Aquarius answers, when you decided belonging was more important than being real. That tension is your starting point for the month. You might feel it as a tightness in your throat, that pressure of wanting to say the thing you've been swallowing. Let it rise. It's supposed to. Then, on February 3rd, Uranus stations direct in Taurus. Now, Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, 8 years. And what Uranus does in Taurus is demolish old foundations, old ideas about safety, about money, about what you need to feel secure so that new ones can be poured. Think about who you were in 2018, what you valued, what you clung to, what you thought you needed to survive. Most of that has been dismantled, not cruelly, necessarily. This month, Uranus turns direct for the final time in this sign. It leaves Taurus in April, and it won't be back in your lifetime. So, this early February activation is the closing chapter of an 8-year story about your relationship with security, stability, and self-worth. Whatever has felt stuck since the fall, a financial situation, a living situation, a decision about what you're worth, it starts moving now. Uranus doesn't do gentle, but you don't need gentle right now. You need movement. On February 6th, Mercury enters Pisces. And this is where communication starts to shift from thinking to feeling. Mercury in Pisces doesn't want to analyze, it wants to sense. Your intuition gets louder. Your dreams get more vivid. Conversations go to places you didn't expect. And then pay attention to this on February 11th. Mercury meets the North Node. The North Node is your point of destiny, the place in the sky that says, this is where you're heading. When Mercury crosses that point, a piece of information arrives that changes something. A conversation, a message, a sudden knowing that drops in from nowhere. It might feel small in the moment. It won't be. Whatever comes to you around February 11th, write it down. Even if you don't understand it yet. I know there's a part of you right now that's listening to all of this and thinking, but what does it mean for me? For my specific situation, my specific life? Stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you is the part that's going to answer that question in a way you feel in your bones. On February 13th, Saturn enters Aries. And this is enormous. Saturn is the planet of time, structure, commitment. The cosmic architect that looks at your dreams and says, beautiful. Now show me your plan. Saturn doesn't give you what you wish for. Saturn gives you what you earn. And when Saturn enters Aries, the very first sign of the zodiac, it doesn't just begin a new 2.5-year cycle. It begins a new 28-year cycle. The last time Saturn was in Aries was 1996 to 1999. Think about what was beginning in your life back then. Think about what was being built. Now ask yourself, what's beginning now? That foundation you laid in the dark, the invisible growth, the quiet becoming Saturn, looks at it and says, "It's solid. Now we build upward." 4 days later, and this is where February truly becomes the month you'll remember, the sky cracks open. A solar eclipse in Aquarius. An annular eclipse, a ring of fire, where the moon passes in front of the sun and leaves a blazing circle of light around the edges. This begins a brand new eclipse series on the Aquarius-Leo axis, the first in this sign pair in years. And eclipses are not just lunations. Eclipses are doorways. Something ends so that something else can begin. A chapter of your life that you've been clinging to, consciously or not, reaches its conclusion. And a chapter you couldn't have imagined starts to write itself. In Aquarius, this eclipse touches everything about your future, your vision for your life, your community, your place in the world, who you are when you stop performing and start choosing. And here's what's breathtaking about this day. On the same day as the eclipse, February 17th, Venus meets the North Node. Venus, the planet of love, beauty, creativity, and value, meeting your point of destiny. On the same day, a cosmic doorway opens, a fated connection, a destined creative opening, something or someone beautiful that was always meant to find you. If you're single, stay open this week. If you're partnered, something deepens or clarifies. And if there's a relationship in your life that's been sitting in uncertainty, where you don't quite know what it is or where it's going this week, the truth arrives. And the truth, whatever it is a gift. Now, everything I've described so far would be enough to make February extraordinary. But there is one more thing, one alignment that hasn't occurred in over 300 years, and it's the reason I believe you were meant to hear this reading. On February 20th, Saturn and Neptune meet at 0 degrees Aries. Let me tell you what that means. Saturn, the builder, the one who knows how to take a vision and make it load-bearing, the planet that turns dreams into plans and plans into realities. Neptune, the dreamer, the one who sees the finished picture before a single brushstroke has been made, the planet that whispers there's something more when the world says, be realistic. For most of your life, these two have been working separately. The dream lived over here vivid and beautiful, but untouchable. The work lived over here grinding and necessary, but disconnected from anything that felt like purpose. You could dream or you could build, but you couldn't seem to do both at the same time. On February 20th, Saturn and Neptune stand in the same place in the sky. The builder and the dreamer, side by side, for the first time in 36 years. But it's not just that they're meeting, it's where they're meeting. 0 degrees Aries, the very first degree of the entire zodiac, the birth point, the beginning of everything. This conjunction hasn't happened at this degree in over 300 years. No one alive has experienced this. No one alive will experience it again. 0 degrees Aries, the first degree, the first breath of the entire zodiac. And on February 20th, something new takes its first breath in your life too. The dream and the structure become one thing. That house you've been building in the dark? Neptune walks through it and says, I know this place. I've been seeing it for years. And Saturn walks through it and says the bones are good. This can hold weight. This is ready. What you've been building and what you've been dreaming about turn out to be the same house. And I need you to sit with that for a moment, because I know what you've been telling yourself. I know you've been looking at your life, at the pieces that don't seem to fit, at the progress that doesn't seem to show, at the dream that keeps getting pushed to someday, and wondering if any of it is going anywhere. It is. Every delay, every frustration, every dark night where you couldn't see the shape of what you were making. It wasn't wasted. It wasn't random. It was preparation. You couldn't build this dream before because the foundation wasn't ready. The ground wasn't ready. You weren't ready. And now you are. You were not falling behind. You were being held back until the right door opened. And this month, it opens. Take a breath with me, a real one. Feel your ribs expand. Feel the pause at the top before you release. That pause, that suspended moment between the inhale and the exhale, that's where you've been living. And this month, you finally breathe out. Let that land for a moment. Whatever you just felt, that loosening, that softness, that quiet, yes, somewhere in your chest, that's your body, recognizing what your mind has been trying to understand. You're not imagining the shift. Your body already knows. Now, before the month closes, there are two more things to know. On February 25th, Mercury stations retrograde in Pisces. After all this forward momentum, Mercury says pause. Not stop, pause. Review what just happened. Revisit old plans with new eyes. Let the magnitude of what shifted actually land in your body before you rush forward. And I want you to pay attention during this retrograde, because Mercury retrograde in Pisces doesn't just cause logistical hiccups. It opens channels. Old memories surface. Old connections resurface. If someone from your past comes back into your awareness during the last week of February, don't dismiss it. Mercury retrograde during this energy doesn't bring people back randomly. It brings back what's unfinished. And sometimes what's unfinished is unfinished because it was waiting for you to become who you are now before it could be completed. Then, on February 27th, two things happen. The Sun meets the North Node, a moment of clarity about your path, about where you're heading, about what matters. And Mars squares Uranus, a jolt, a spark, a sudden breakthrough, or a sudden breaking apart of something that needed breaking. The month doesn't end quietly. It ends with a revelation. So that's what's happening in the sky. But now I want to talk about you, not your chart, not the planets, you. Because this month doesn't just reveal what's changing around you, it reveals what you've already become. I need you to hear something. And I need you to hear it not as astrology, not as metaphor, but as the simple truth. You have been building in the dark for years, without a blueprint, without a guarantee, without anyone standing next to you saying, yes, keep going, this is going to be something. You built on faith. You built on those nights when you weren't even sure what you were doing, when the only thing keeping you going was this stubborn, quiet refusal to stop. And the hardest part, the part that makes me ache for you, is that somewhere along the way, you started to believe the house might not be real, that maybe you were just digging, that the dream was too big, that you started too late, that you weren't the kind of person who gets to live in the house they imagined. But you kept building anyway. That tells me everything I need to know about you. Think about who you were in 2018. Think about what scared you then. Think about the conversations you rehearsed in your head and never had. The boundaries you drew in your journal and then erased when the moment came. The truths you swallowed because speaking them felt like too much of a risk. Now look at where you are. You are not that person. You are someone who walked through 8 years of Uranus, tearing apart your foundations, and you're still here, still standing, still building. The growth you did in the quiet, the changes you made that no one saw, the version of yourself you assembled in the dark with shaking hands that wasn't wasted, that was the foundation. And this month, for the first time, what you've been quietly building finally meets the sky. You've been waiting for permission to believe in yourself again. You've been waiting for a sign that it's safe to want what you want. Consider this your sign. Consider this month your permission slip from the cosmos itself. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You were being prepared for this. So now that you see what you've built, now that you know what you're standing on, let me show you what becomes possible from here. Because these aren't predictions, these are doorways, and you get to choose which ones you walk through. In your sense of self, the new eclipse series on the Aquarius-Leo axis is rewriting the rules about who you're allowed to be. If you've been performing a version of yourself that others expect, a career identity, a family role, a carefully managed personality, this eclipse series begins to dismantle the performance and reveal the person underneath. That process starts now. In love, Venus meeting the North Node during the eclipse is one of the most beautiful signatures in astrology for destined connections. Something or someone arrives that was always meant to find you. And if you're already in a relationship, something clarifies, something deepens, something becomes more honest than it's ever been. In your work and your purpose, Saturn entering Aries opens a 2.5-year window where brand new structures can be built from scratch. If you've been waiting for the right time to begin something, a business, a project, a creative leap, a complete reinvention, Saturn just rang the bell. Not because it will be easy, because it will be real, and real is what you've been starving for. In your healing, Mercury retrograde at the end of the month creates a window for completing old stories. Conversations you never had, closure you never received, versions of yourself you abandoned too soon. This isn't Mercury causing chaos. This is Mercury creating space for you to go back and collect the pieces of yourself you left behind. And in your spirit, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is, at its core, a sacred transit. It's where faith meets form, where prayer meets action. Your spiritual practice this month isn't just meditation. It's not the posts you save but never share. It's not the prayers you whisper where no one can hear. This month, your spiritual practice is every brave choice you make to live out loud what you've only been believing in private. That's the Saturn-Neptune gift. Faith with a backbone. Now, I don't want to send you into this month without something to hold on to. So let me leave you with 3 things to carry through February. The first, choose one dream, not all of them, just one. The one that makes your heart beat differently when you let yourself think about it. The one you've been afraid to say out loud. Give that one dream your commitment this month. Saturn rewards focus. Neptune rewards truth. Together, they reward the person who is brave enough to say, "This one. I'm building this one." The second, trust what closes. Eclipse season closes doors. Sometimes doors you loved. Sometimes doors you thought you needed. Your job is not to hold them open. Your job is to grieve what needs grieving, and then turn around because something opened behind you while you were holding on. Every ending this month is making room. The third, after the 25th, slow down. The first 3 weeks of February are for action, clarity, bold choices. The last week is for reflection. Mercury retrograde isn't punishment, it's integration. Let what happened catch up with you. Let the ground settle under your feet. Don't force, breathe. You've just walked through one of the most powerful astrological months in modern history. You're allowed to sit down for a moment and take it in. And one last thing, before I let you go, the fact that you found this reading, that you watched it all the way through, that something in it made you pause, or made your chest tight, or made your eyes sting, that's not coincidence. That's alignment. That's you answering a call you could feel before you could hear it. So as you walk into February, walk the way you'd walk into a house you built with your own hands. Slowly, with reverence, running your fingers along the walls, noticing what you made. The lights are on now, and what they reveal is not a mess, not a mistake, not a life that fell behind. It's a beginning, your beginning, built in the dark, revealed in the light, and it was always, always real. This is your month. This was your reading, and I am so glad you're here for it. If this reading touched something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment and tell me what's the one dream you're choosing to build. I read every single one. And if you want to go deeper, subscribe. What comes after February is just as extraordinary, and I'll be right here when you're ready. Take care of yourself this month. You deserve everything that's coming.